Here's some information to consider when categorizing teachers and thinking about student growth measures. We've referred to categories for educators based upon the three types of student growth measures, and those categories of educators are A, B, and C for principals, and A1, A2, B, or C for teachers. The types of student growth measures are value-added measures, Ohio Department of Education approved vendor assessment measures, and local measures. The teachers and principals are categorized based upon the type of student growth measure that's available for them. Both state assessments and approved vendor assessments could have MRM and URM data, so the terms MRM and URM are no longer being used. Last spring, teachers should have linked with levels and courses for grades 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 math and English language arts, grades 5 and 8 science, grade 6 social studies, English 1 for high school credit, Algebra 1 for high school credit, Integrated Math 1 for high school credit, and Physical Science for high school credit. Teachers will still continue to receive annual teacher-level value-added reports, including composite data. The reports and composite data generated last spring's 14-15 data will reflect a single year only. As a result of House Bill 64, there are changes concerning the use of value added for teacher and principal evaluation. Districts will not use value-added ratings from state tests for the 2014-15 and 2015-16 school years as part of their evaluations unless the districts and educators enter into a memorandum of understanding to allow the continued use of these value-added ratings for this school year, which is 2015-16, and for next year, the 2016-2017 school year. Further, districts will not use value-added ratings from state tests for the 14-15 and the 15-16 school years when making decisions regarding dismissal, retention, tenure, or compensation unless districts and educators enter into a memorandum of understanding, or an MOU, to allow the continued use of these value-added ratings for the 15-16 and 16-17 school years. As a result of House Bill 64, there are changes in using value added for principal evaluation. Districts may enter into an agreement to allow the continued use of value added for principals. However, all principals will continue to utilize student growth measures in OPES. Principals that do not use value added will have other student growth measures available. When no value-added data are used and no other student academic growth measure is available, the teacher evaluations shall be based solely on teacher performance measures. Performance measures are only applied to A1 teachers who have no MOU and hence no value-added data. Since A1 teachers would not be eligible for less frequent evaluations without a growth measure, districts could decide to use approved assessments or local measures such as student learning objectives for those teachers. Thinking about the category of teachers who will be an A1 teacher and the use of the MOU, think about these three options for A1 teachers with value-added data. There could be an MOU which would allow the use of value-added data for OTES. In other words, value-added data will still be generated and districts can opt in to use the value-added data for the teacher evaluation. Or districts can decide locally to use other types of student growth measures for OTES, such as the ODE-approved vendor assessments and local measures such as student learning objectives that could be used in the evaluation of A1 teachers. Or the third option would be that districts can use only the teacher performance measures with 2 full observation cycles to determine the overall OTES rating. In this case, a teacher who might have received an accomplished or skilled rating would not be on a less frequent evaluation interval, but would be on a full evaluation cycle, but that evaluation would only consist of performance measures. When thinking about options for principals and A2 teachers with value-added data, there are 2 options to consider. The first would be for principals and A2 teachers to continue to use the student growth measures that would be currently available to them, which would be measures other than the state assessment value-added data. This would be used when determining the student growth measure for the purposes of evaluation. Or principals and A2 teachers may utilize the state value-added data if the district has an MOU in place which allows the use of value-added data for the purposes of evaluation. Principals and teachers may use shared attribution as a local student growth measure if the district has an MOU which allows the use of value-added data as a local measure. Teachers without student growth measures must be fully evaluated. This chart shows some examples of teachers without student growth measures. An A1 teacher without student growth measures would be fully evaluated. The entire rating for this teacher would be based upon performance measures when the district had chosen the original framework. And the rating for this teacher would be based upon performance measures and the alternative component when the district has chosen the alternative framework. A teacher without student growth measures due to having less than 6 students would be required to have a full evaluation. And that entire rating would be based upon performance measures when the district had selected the original 50-50 framework. This teacher's rating would be based upon performance measures and the alternative component when the district has selected the alternative framework. There are some things that are new to eTPES this school year. Within the roster, we have added the date of birth information to the user profile screen to assist with the proper identification of the staff member. eTPES is also able to automatically process overnight changes regarding name changes, but those name changes do come through the Ohio Department of Education and must be made by the educator requesting the name change. We've also updated the Forgot My PIN feature so that you can see your PIN right away. We've expanded some forms. The teacher pre-conference form is now expanded if the district chooses to use those fields. And the informal and formal evaluations now have added text fields. You can print all completed forms for an educator as PDFs in a zip file as well. The eTPES implementation timeline allows for the completion of eTPES setup in the fall of 2015. By January or February, all superintendents need to have entered the default percentages for teacher and principal student growth measures. Remember that for principal evaluation, a preliminary evaluation must be conducted at least 60 days prior to contract action. And by April the 15th, the Ohio Department of Education recommends that teachers administer the post-assessment for the SLO, and thereafter complete the SLO scoring template for submission to the principal. The principal will then enter the approved vendor scores and local measure ratings. By May 1, principals complete the evaluation for each teacher, whether that teacher is on a less frequent evaluation cycle or not. By May 10th, principals provide each teacher with a written report of the results of that teacher's evaluation. By June the 1st, administrators must be notified of contract renewal or non-renewal. And by the middle of June, eTPES will be closing for the 15-16 school year. This concludes this presentation of eTPES evaluation updates and requirements for fall 2015. If you have questions, you may contact the email addresses or phone number on the screen. User guides are also available on the eTPES help screen. Thank you for your attention.